Right, so hello and welcome back to Books and Things, and welcome to another video, and today I'm going to be doing a book review of Emma Donoghue's The Wonder. So, this is not the video that I'm supposed to be making today. I was going to be very good and catch up on my Bleak House read along and do my video on Bleak House's chapters for the month of March, but I finished reading this today and it was very, very good, and so I wanted to talk to you about it instead. So sorry Bleak House, that video will come at some point in the next week or two, but today I want to talk about The Wonder because this was really incredible. So this is a book that has been on my TBR for ages and ages. The hardback was published in 2016, and because I have the hardback, not the paperback, that means I suspect I acquired this in 2016, so quite a few years ago now. I was finally prompted to pick this up partly by Marissa from Blatantly Bookish, who I know really enjoyed this and said she thought I would like it, and also partly by Emma from Drinking by My Shelf, who read this a month or two ago and really liked it as well. I also partly read this because it was ticking off one of the challenges on the Reading Through the Ages challenge, which is hosted by Mel from Mel's Bookland Adventures and Victoria from Eve's Alexandria, because one of the challenges is to read something set in Victorian Scotland, Wales or Ireland, and this is set in Victorian Ireland. I had read one book by Emma Donoghue previously, which was Room, which I read for a book club a few years ago and really, really enjoyed. I thought it was really good, very, very different to this in some ways, although in other ways similar. In terms of what The Wonder is about, The Wonder, as I said, is set in Victorian Ireland and it follows a nurse called Lib. Lib has been a nurse for many years. She trained with Florence Nightingale, she has worked on battlefronts and she is very experienced, and she is offered a job for a few weeks in Ireland to supervise the health of a particular young girl. Lib is from England, and when she arrives in Ireland she finds that her charge is rather more complicated than she expected, and that in fact she has been called not to look after the health of a little girl, but to watch and observe a particular child. This girl, Anna, is 11 years old, and everyone around her claims that she has eaten nothing for 4 months and that she has lived off plain water and nothing else. Everyone in the local village thinks that it is a miracle and that she is miraculously surviving without the need for food. And Lib and another woman, a nun who is also a nurse, sort of take shifts watching the girl effectively to check that she's not eating and to work out what's going on. And everything goes on from there. It's really, 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 really good. And I don't know how I can say more than that. Like, there are so many things that I loved about this. Obviously, I'm a big fan of a Victorian setting in general, and the way this book looks at like the history of this particular time, especially the kind of differences between 19th century England and Ireland, those were done really well. The kind of differences between rural and urban areas, and the kind of difference in belief systems and values between England and Ireland were really interesting as well. This book looks quite interestingly at religion as well. Liv is from England, which is very Anglican, but she is in fact herself more or less an atheist, but then she is in this village where everyone is very strongly Catholic, and where, you know, people do believe that this girl Anna is some kind of miracle who might become a saint because she seems to be able to survive without food. And Lib is very, very skeptical of this from the start, where other people around her kind of believe that this girl is some miracle. And the way this book looks at kind of the history of the time, the history of nursing, the position of women at the time as well, and the kind of way women's medical opinions were not trusted in the way that men's were is really, really interesting. And the way this book looks at the history of medicine in the Victorian period is really interesting as well, which is something I'm very, very interested in and really enjoyed. And kind of seeing Lib like write down all of her notes and take measurements and kind of assess Anna's state of health is really, really interesting. I thought the characterization in this book was so strong as well. Lib is a fantastic character, and Anna, the small girl, is so wonderfully done and so believably, like, and at times heartbreakingly portrayed. Like, it's so, so cleverly done, and all of the minor characters as well that fill up this village are really cleverly drawn as well. I thought the nun who also nurses with Lib, who is a bit of a mystery for quite a lot of the book, was really, really well done. Then there is a journalist who's come from Dublin to the village to kind of report the case, who Lib ends up kind of striking up a friendship with, and his characterization is done really well as well. I think there are a few books that I read where the characters kind of leap off the page as much as they do in The Wonder, and it's done fantastically well. The writing is also beautiful throughout. Emma Donoghue is one of those writers where like you just read pages and pages and pages and nothing ever trips you up because everything is so like flawlessly done. But above all, like leaving aside all of the nitty-gritty of why this book was great, just it's an incredibly compelling and powerful read, and it's one of those books that like really stays with you. I read the bulk of it in like 2 days and really flew through it because it's so engaging and gripping and so powerful, and it really like gets in your head. I don't know, I've had this experience with a few books before where just reading a book or having that book on the go in the background kind of affects the way you think or the way you feel. I've had this before, I remember when I read Emma Healy's Elizabeth is Missing, where the main character has dementia, where it really made me think really weirdly, because I've been reading about a character who had dementia and it kind of messed with my head. And this book, because the little girl Anna is kind of going without food and you see the kind of complications of her health, I felt like really hungry and really dizzy all the time I was reading this book. And I think it's just because it was like in my head that much, which doesn't sound like a good recommendation for reading this book, but seriously, read this book. And it got in my head a lot, and I thought it was just fantastic and such a powerful read. It's really, really moving as well, like the way you slowly find out more about Liv's past and slowly see her kind of connection to this little girl Anna grow. It's such a fantastic book, you know, like I said, it looks at themes of religion, it looks at themes of family, both kind of biological and not. It looks at themes of kind of being outsiders in certain situations. It looks at love and gossip and social scorn and the position of women within Victorian society. Like, there are so many interesting things going on in this book, as well as all of the really interesting thematic stuff and the beautiful writing. It's such a page turner and so dramatic, and I was like on the edge of my seat on the train reading this for the whole time. And the ending is just magnificent and perfect and so well done. It's very brilliantly paced all the way through. Overall, basically, I would really like to highly recommend The Wonder because it was just fantastic. Definitely one of my favourite books of the year so far. Definitely, I think, my favourite book of the year so far, and one of those books that like reminded me of why I love reading and why I read to begin with. And obviously, like, most of the time as I'm reading books, I'm reminded of why I love reading and why I read, but every now and then you pick up a book and you're like, yes, this is perfect, this is fantastic, this is the reason why I read books, to read books like this. It's really, really good. I would highly, highly recommend it. I hope some of you will pick it up, and also if you're doing Mel and Victoria's Reading Through the Ages challenge, this is a good one to tick off one of those boxes, and also a truly fantastic read. So I love this a lot. This is definitely a new favourite, and I'm really looking forward to picking up some more work by Emma Donoghue in the future. Please let me know down in the comments if you've read The Wonder, what you thought of it, and also if you've read other books by Emma Donoghue that I haven't read. I've only read The Wonder and A Room. Please let me know if you enjoyed them and what you would recommend, where you'd recommend I go next with her work, because I definitely want to be reading more by her in the future. And I think that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll be back very soon with another bookish video.